we have a question. It says, who is Dajjal? Dajjal in Arabic is a figure who will appear at the end of events, at the end of times, before the coming of Imam Mahdi. You know that in Islam, in Islamic eschatology, we have two different concepts: the Day of Judgment and the coming of Imam Mahdi. The coming of Imam Mahdi is not the end of the world. We have the end of times and we have the Day of Judgment. They are two different concepts. First, Imam Mahdi will come and establish the government of the just, which will last for a time that we don't know how many years, thousands of years, centuries, we don't know. And then there will be the final destruction of the material world. It's called Yawmul Qiyamah, and it will happen until it happens. The earth will inevitably be destroyed. The sun, the moon, and the earth will all ultimately cease to exist. That's Yawmul Qiyamah. So, with the coming of Imam Mahdi, the Day of Judgment does not happen immediately. There is a difference. In time, we don't know how many years very well. So, you first have to understand that there are two separate concepts. In the church, what teaches you is together. The Day of Judgment is right when Jesus comes. That's not the Day of Judgment. They will not go to the resurrection. Both will happen. The minimum resurrection, which is called Raja, the final resurrection, will happen after the destruction of the entire earth. Once the entire earth has been destroyed, then we will have the Day of Judgment. On the Day of Judgment, then all the deceased will be resurrected. With the coming of Jesus, not all the deceased will be resurrected. Only the very wicked and the very benevolent will be resurrected. Keep that very clear. That's the first thing. So let's take a look. Before the coming of Imam Mahdi, certain figures will appear. One of those figures is called Dajjal. Another one of those figures is called Sophiani. They are wicked people who are going to the kingdom of Satan on earth. Are they the same shaitan? The same Satan? Or are they different people? Yes. Sophiani is a different person from shaitan. That's true. The follower of shaitan is a descendant of the Umayyads, of Muawiyah, of Yazid, those people. Well, now let's talk about the concept of Dajjal. What is Dajjal? Who is Dajjal? What is certain is from the wicked powers. What is certain is on the path of shaitan, on the path of Satan. In the end times, in Al-Haruz Zaman, before the coming of Imam Mahdi, that person will appear. Many people say that's equivalent to the Antichrist. Yes, Dajjal is against Christ, but it's not the same concept of the Antichrist invented by the church. So, many people wanted to say who Dajjal is. It has some explanations in Islamic narrations. For example, it says that he has a big eye on his forehead. So, who has that big eye on their forehead? Some say the screen is Dajjal. I mean, like those cell phones that have the screen, because that's where Satan starts to deceive us. Let's see. It's a principle that deals with a false Messiah capable of performing miracles and deceiving many people, whose appearance heralds the last days. Later, just like the Antichrist, he evolves into a more abominable, barren nature, accompanied by a hairy monster, which is like his donkey, a hairy monster. Unable to access Medina and Mecca, one eye stands out over the other. One of those eyes is super big. The most common versions depict him as having a patch over one eye. One eye is always closed, having eyes of different colors, a squinting eye, etc. Legend predicts release post-fall. It is ominous and fearsome. For example, in a legend, she appears chained in a monastery by the sea, and her imminent release is predicted 7 months or 7 years, 7 times. as long as the version is correct, after the capture of Constantinople by the enemy. Some assume that he comes from this and that he is Jewish. The final battle of Dajjal will be assisted by an army of 70,000 enemies. Some say they are Jews, God knows, from the city of Isfahan. Some have said that a group of them comes from Iran. He is depicted riding a donkey or a creature as large as himself, with the letters KFR engraved on his forehead. Kafir, infidel, refers to a person who hides the truth. According to Shia tradition, after a reign of 40 days, Dajjal is killed by Imam Mahdi, who is assisted by Jesus. For Sunnism, it is Jesus himself who takes him down with a lance to the chest. It's worth noting that these descriptions are based on supposed dreams, not just any dream. This is what we call Islamic tradition. So, one of these accounts comes from what we can say, from what the Prophet of Islam saw, the visions. It says dream there, but let's call it visions that the Prophet of Islam had about the future. So, let's go. We have many narrations. Let's look for signs of his coming. There are many narrations. That's good. Some are weak, some are trustworthy, that talk about Dajjal. The following signs are attributed to Imam Ali in some sources, both Sunni and Shia, regarding the coming of Dajjal. Let's see what's happening before the coming of Dajjal. People are going to stop offering prayers. People don't stop participating in the mosques. The lack of honesty will be the way of life. Lying will become a virtue. Like today, the media spreads lies. People are going to mortgage their faith for earthly gains. It means they are going to hide their faith for money. Usury and bribery will become legitimate. The fools will rule over the wise. The blood of the innocent will be spilled. Pride will be taken in acts of oppression. The rulers will be corrupt. The experts will be hypocrites. The religious people will be hypocrites. There will be no acute hunger at that time. There will be no shame, modesty so among people. A man, his wife is going to prostitute herself and he doesn't care. Men dress like women, women dress like men, men sleep with men, and women with women. Many people will worship Shaitan, Satan, and the worldly. There will be no respect for the elderly, for the wise, for parents. No one is going to respect the elderly. Well, then, about that Dajjal, there are many things. But the important thing is that this corrupt one who comes at the end of times will be eliminated by Imam Mahdi. But who exactly is Dajjal, we don't know. We can't say today is so and so. Some say it is, for example, the screen. Well, I don't agree with that either. But I say there are different interpretations. But what's certain is that when Imam Mahdi arrives, everyone will know all those signs. But before the coming of Imam Mahdi, little by little, the kingdom of Satan will prevail over a large part of the world. In the meantime, the believers are also spreading the faith. It means both sides are going to become stronger. The believers are going to grow stronger in the world. Those with the power of the devil will also become more powerful in the world. It means the world is going to be divided into two groups of darkness and of light. That's how the division will be among everyone. Before the coming of Imam Mahdi, when Imam Mahdi arrives along with Jesus, all the believers will join Imam Mahdi, becoming part of the army of light, while the unbelievers will join the army of Satan. There will be war between them. But Imam Mahdi and his army of believers will prevail against the unbelievers, inshallah.